Peace, everybody. What's going on? What's happening? It's your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. And today, I am going to be dealing with a topic. Not very many people know about this topic, or this particular science. So I'm going to talk about moon science. And today I have a guest. He goes by the name. Help me to pronounce your name. Is it Kinoo?
No, it's Kinoo.
Okay, Kinoo. So Kinoo. I'm sorry.
Everybody has their problem.
I'm so sorry. Okay, Kinoo is going to go into the information about moon science, and we're going to be talking about Afro Uno, and also we're going to be talking about the ongoing controversy between the Nuwapians and the Noon science. So, yeah, I know there's a lot of controversy there. So we're going to be talking about that as well, because, we want to get into that and, some of the allegations that's been taking place as well. So, brother, introduce yourself to me. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how long you've been studying noon science.
Oh, this is a lot. That's like a 50-part question. I think I need to be more specific because I'm very active. So I have many beginnings. Could you give me a little bit more specificity? Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
Are you there?
I can hear you. Are you there?
Hold on, brother. Hold on.
You froze up.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. All right, repeat yourself again.
Yeah, I was saying, could you be more specific? Because the question you asked is a lot of them, and because
just tell me about your background as far as like where you from and how did you get involved in studying the noon science and how long you been in it?
All right, well, it's like a transference without stopping. You know how somebody would say, I came up as a Muslim, then I became a Christian. With this case, I'm from down south. I got to be careful what I'm saying because now, because of all of the beefing, a follower of Dr. York put out a 500-page book of lies with me. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Lightning of the East. And
I never heard that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we just snatch that book, Lightning Felicia's in the room. And it's a thick book that got me and my family in it.
Okay.
Bad lies. And what happened is that if you go to my YouTube, right, you'll see, especially on Quibu Nuku page and Tom Muno page, we've been releasing stuff toward the book. Matter of fact, me and Chuck did the first video together about them lying on the Ronettes and how the guy lied and said that Dr. York was a child raped this singer that they never met. This is the book right here that they put out.
Oh, okay.
And it came out earlier this year, and they was almost promoting this book of lies. And so we had to go in here and straighten out a couple of things. So what he wants to do is he put a whole bunch of lies in there that I'm a street hustler. I'm from the Bronx, not from the Bronx, from down south. You can tell from my accent, I'm from the South.
Yeah, I can tell.
Saying I was a homosexual. He said all these things because we've been beating York for years. And so what we've been doing is releasing different things in the book, correcting other people he lied about. And I told him through the video, I told Tahaka, I'm not going to tell you my real history. I'm going to leave the lies in here. But I've been correcting other people that's dead and Afro-Unu and other people. So what I will say, I'm from the South. I came in contact with Dr. York's information in 1995 officially. Before that, I had a cousin, Reggie Gilchrist, rest in peace. He had a friend of his that gave him some books, some Ansar books. It was like maybe 2-3 little Ansar books, I think of like around 92, 93 when I was Muslim. And I remember the Imam Isa picture in the book. And then I read them. I don't know what happened to the books. A few years later, in 95, I was going to work. And they had a tabernacle across the street from this college, from the town I was in. And the bus stopped. I got off, went across the street to go where I was going, and happened to walk past, and they had glass in the door. And I looked down, just happened to look. And it was an old picture of York, but it was a color picture, big picture of sitting on the floor. And I remember that picture from years ago, right? So I said, let me go ahead and see what's going on. I remember this picture. So I went in there, I was talking to them. I think the sister at the time, her name was Atara. And they had a bunch of books in there. We were just talking. And the book that caught my attention was 360 Questions to Ask a Sunni Muslim. It was a real thick book. And so what I did was, I said, I get paid about a week or so from now. I'm going to come back for this book. But they gave me, I think, the true Adam and Eve story, St. Paul, Disciple, Deceiver, and I think Who Was Jesus Sent To. Those 3 books they gave me, and I took those and I read them. And my baby mother at the time, rest in peace, she went and got the book for me, and she read the book before I did. And she used to call me when I was at my job, and she would just be laughing. And I was like, "What's going on?" And she was like, the questions, like she wasn't in religion at all, but she would read certain things out the book, and because I was a Muslim at the time, she was laughing at some of the questions, and she like, "Yo, you got to read this book." So I read the book, and eventually, from reading the book, I just ended up leaving Islam alone. I had already been transitioning from the Nation of Islam into Al-Islam, which the part that with the black Muslims over here. Then I just kind of got lost my affection for it, because when we used to go to the meetings, all they did was use the Bible to make their points and stuff like that. And I think I remember when Tony Muhammad, he big now, but he wasn't big back then. He was still coming up, and he was coming at a teaching. The guy that was the minister at the place I was from, name was Vincent, and Vince was a good brother. I still remember him to this day. He ended up leaving too, because I remember they had a minister come there, and they wanted people to donate money and things. And I remember they called back and they was trying to negotiate paying money. And Vince was like, "Listen, man, I gotta feed my family, this, that, and third." I remember them saying, this was a representative from Tony Muhammad at the time. He was like, "F your family," and they wanted money. That set Vincent on a path to eventually leave from that, I had an uncle who is passed, and he told me I should look at Al-Islam. He said that Islam is not really real Islam. So, I went into that for a while, and that was like 92, 93, 94, 95. Got the York books and went from 95 all the way to 2010. So I'm jumping around here. So, I was one of those ones that was really, when I got the information, it was like then I was on MySpace. MySpace started blowing up like later on in the 2000s. But I was just doing my thing with that until, I heard about the nature of nature. But before then, I was on MySpace. I ran with another crazy dude in this book too, Mark Brady, claiming, he was the next successor of York. We had a lot of people that was on different.
That's it.
He was the next successor, and he was running around saying, he was calling himself Atum Ray because York was calling himself Atum, and so you had Atum, and then you have Atun. But these are supposed to be positions of the sun, and then you had Amun, which is over to the west. And you have Anum, so York always claimed to be Atum. So Mark Brady was claiming to be the next phase, which is Atum, which is who Akhenaten was worshiping. That's where you get the word Atum. He was worshiping Aten. They pronounce the A-T-N. The same with young Pharaoh calling himself the Aten nation, because they look at that as the highest point and all of that. So that these are like ego things, people. Now that's what you learn when you start running to all these different people. These names they have. They always trying to choose names that put them above everybody else. So anyway, the dude was a little off, but when you into following people like York, they claim they had 19 spirits that come in and out. So when people come around you claiming to be all these different things, it doesn't send off a red alert that these people may be crazy. Now, if you didn't come up around that type of stuff, and a person come up and say, "Oh, I'm John the Baptist reincarnated," other people think you're crazy or something is wrong. But in that with York, that was an everyday thing. I mean, it was really, really normal, even up to the people who was around him, who was teaching. They had all these names. They had this stuff that was going on. You had a lot of people who didn't go through that, but there was a lot of us who did. So went there with him, and he had a lot of craziness going on and claimed to be Jesus again. I ran into a couple of people like that, and you just go on. But they always had a respect for Dr. York to an extent, even though they wanted to be him or be greater. But we was all tied into that insanity. So anything else you wanted me to add?
So now let's get into now that you're studying noon science. Can you tell us what is noon science exactly? What is it?
Okay, before I get there, let me show how I transition. So 2007, I got contacted through MySpace, through my ex now, and her name was Tiffany. She heard about me on Blog Talk Radio because me and Mark Brady used to do a lot of Blog Talk Radios together. And we used to talk about York and how we can get him out, and his case and coming together. All of the same stuff you hear when people be trying to get their leaders out, and we need to come together. All this little stuff, love, stop fighting. And she heard a couple of my Blog Talk Radios, and she said, there's some books that you might need to read called Introduction to the Nature of Nature that Doc wrote. That's the first time I heard of the Nature of Nature in 2007. And so from eventually I left down south, came up to the Bronx in 2008, and then I started reading the books. And then she had the old books, the Bible interpretations, booklet 1 and 2, and the non-Bible accounts 1 through 4, which everybody assumed that York wrote because they said he wrote them. So I read all of those books together with an introduction to the nature of nature, and then I started taking the books, the physical copies. I had bought a scanner, and I would scan the pages from the old books with the nature and say that York wrote these based upon, because they all were similar writings. So for years this was going on, for like 08, 09, 2010, stuff like that. But then they started putting out these books called Actual Facts in 2010. And I'm a person that actually do a lot of comparative study, and that's what I was doing. I compare everything, verse for verse, all of anything that appears to be similar. That's how I did. So when the actual facts came out, the actual facts were not in line with the nature of nature. So what I would do, which none of them would do, I used to write York and question him about certain things in these books, and he would just never really answer anything. And so that's when I started feeling, okay, something's not right, something's not right. And eventually, I got a lot of letters floating around now on the internet amongst the YBs, just like, famous, because they was amazed that I used to write him and question him, and I was post my letters online like, look, I asked him this, he didn't know nothing about this, well, I put this out. So eventually, as time went on, we started, I was on Facebook, right, because I'm jumping around. Eventually, I left Facebook for a while, came back 2014. I think I left Facebook around 2013, took a year off, came back, and then we started battling the YPNs based upon the information that we found out as far as the nature books was the way we supposed to be going. For a group of us that felt like, okay, noon is the way, and I still was questioning, what was going on with York. And then we found out in 2014 that Afro Unu, there was a bookstore, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was a bookstore that's mentioned in the nature books called A&B Bookstore, right? But the bookstores in the Bronx disappeared, and then it popped up in Brooklyn under Official Connection, which we didn't know was the same bookstore at first, but it was a group of Noonie Boos who followed the nature of knowledge, but still was loyal to York, was saying, these books came from this store. So me and another Noonie Boo went down to the bookstore, sat down with the guy, his name Roy, rest in peace. We sat down with him, we said, listen, is Dr. York and Afro Unu the same, right? And we showed him a picture of Dr. York, he said, no, this is not the same man. I said, okay, boom, that was the first thing. The second thing is, I asked him, I said, well, how long have you known Afro Unu and did business with him? He said 15 years. So that was the second thing. So then we asked him, was the voice on the tape that you heard, was that Afro Unu? But the name on the tape is, he was using Nubi Riku at the time. So a lot of people think that was somebody else, because the guy said, on the voice on the tape said, Nubi Riku, the chief representative of Afro Unu. So people would think that the person you heard on the tape wasn't him, but it was, because we asked Royal, was the voice on the tape Afro Unu? He said, was that Nubi Riku Afro Unu? He said, I don't know nothing about the name Nubi Riku, but the voice on the tape is Afro Unu. So that was somebody who did business with him at the same time. That was it. So once that occurred, later on that year, we happened to find I had another guy named Nusa. He had an Ancestry.com that we had got Afro Unu's wife's name. He looked her name up on Ancestry.com. It was like 4 or 5 names. I got the names. I called all the names, left messages, and his wife called me back maybe like a day or two later. And then I spoke to her. Then I think a little bit after that, we found the obituary. We had the obituary first, and then I made contact with his wife in January 2015. So we found it in December. Next month, we got her phone call, and I talked to her and all this other stuff. That's how we was confirmed that Afro Unu and Dr. York wasn't the same. This is why we still was on Facebook early. We was going through all these debates, fighting them. So at the time, I consider myself from 95 to 2010. I consider myself in the YBN, but I just transitioned over to Noon because I thought both authors were the same. By the time we got to 2014, I had clearly, once I got enough facts, I separated myself, went back to Facebook, and then started going against other than YBNs, because now I knew, because I was reading all the books from York, from Actual Facts and all that stuff up to this point. So then I had all of this, not only to prove that York and Afro Unu were not the same, I was getting at their new books too, as they was coming out. So that's what I'm telling you, I've been very, very active in every phase that the YBNs have went through from Sabians. And so, and going at it with some other so-called Noonie Boos who were actually York loyalists, and it was a whole, we'll get into that later. So I'm telling you, that's when you talk to me, I'm one of the few ones that have ending and morphing into other stuff. This is why my picture and a lot of my family is in this book being lied on, because we've been beating them, me and Chuck and Quipu, Anubis. So there's a couple of us in here, but I'm one of the most primary ones they hate besides Chuck because of what we've been doing, and we got a Facebook group that's impeccable. They can't beat it. So now Noon just basically it's the science of all of the universes. It's the original science of Nupu, which is the primary creator of the universes when they first started out. Of course, the universe is a being. It doesn't look the way it looked when it first started. The planet is not the same. The atmosphere, all that stuff is different. And so when you talk about Noon, it goes back to what the ancients in Kemet would say Nun, or what they call the chaotic waters. And it's not that the science itself came out of the chaotic waters. Nupu themselves, as 9 ether energies, came out of the chaotic smat circle, which is a watery existence. All right? Because the nature books clarifies what ancient Kemet is meaning back then.
Okay, so now I have a question. What does SMAT
The smat circle, it stands for space, matter, and time. That's just an acronym.
Okay, space, matter, and time. All right. All right then. So now I noticed in the book that you guys use the term Ethiopian race.
Right.
Why do you guys use the terminology Ethiopia? Why did Afro Uno use the term Ethiopian race for people, or describe that Ethiopia?
It's multiple reasons. One was because you're talking about, it deals with our etheric origin, because the E is interchangeable with A. So when you look at the word Ethiopian, the first part is ether. And when you get into our book, it tells you that the universe was created by 9 ether gases and energies. So he's talking about our celestial origin first, and then you start talking about the place called Ethiopia, because Africa was called Ethiopia one time, and so was the Atlantic Ocean. It was called the Ethiopian Ocean. And you can still find that map online to this day. You can type it in, and you'll see it with an A, the Ethiopian, and then either, and then the Greeks use that term too, but it wasn't. A lot of people try to use that, different Moors and other people say, well, it's a Greek word, doesn't matter. What the word or the Greeks were getting information was describing things that took place millions of years before they were there. And so they was using that term to describe our gas form, and then when we personified on the planet Earth. So Ethiopian is also a race name for us as a whole. And it goes into that, but there's other names we call Pitch Nova, we call Nunibus, which means Cloud 9. That means because 9 ether is gases as well, and it's a cloud, just like 6 ether and all these other things like that. But if people get the books, he explains why he uses the term Ethiopian, and he likes to use words as people can find in modern day time. But there's other words in the book that is hard for people to find. So,
okay.
That answers your question.
Okay, that answered my question. Now, so let's go ahead and read one of the first chapters in this book.
Okay.
So this book came out in 93. I see, right? Because I know it came out in 93. This is the one right here.
Okay,
this
book 1. All right, let me
book 1. Yeah, this is the book 1. All right, so
what page you going to?
I'm trying to go to the first chapter. Let me find the first chapter in this book.
All right.
If I can find the first chapter, which one is it? I know he has the board. Oh, okay. I see the table of content right here. All right, so
give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up now. All right. What page you going to?
Okay, so this book is 21, page 21.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna get to 19, 22. All right, number 10, right?
Yeah, number 10. Yeah, nature by reason.
Right.
And it says, listen to reason. If one knows the nature of a person or thing, he knows by nature and natural law what the purpose of that person or thing must be. The books entitled Introduction to Nature of Nature, written by Afro Uno, disclose the nature of nature by sound, right reason, by way of natural law, explanation, example, description, definition, identities, comparison, geometric figures, and illustration, as well as other explanatory explanation and investigations. The best way to learn, know, and understand the nature of a person or thing is to trace its history of existing or being from its beginning to the present time. However, in the case of infinite absolute nature, internal space, internal matter, and internal time, there was never or never ever any beginning. Yet the forms and figures of nature we all see every day had beginning and must end it eventually. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. So now the question is, when he says sound right reasoning, what do he mean by that? Sound right reasoning.
All right, sound right reason is just the translation of what Nupu is. Nupu are mental energies, and it just means sound right reason. So a lot of people use it today, they call it common sense. But that's how you translate that. That's one of the translations. When we talk about using sound right reason, just saying using Nupu, using nine mind, that's the stuff we amongst each other say all the time. York them used that a lot because he hijacked that from the Bible interpretation that Afro written under Amanubi Rakata in 67 and 68. So that's where you first find sound right reason put there. And so you'll hear them, even Sabians, formerly the Wapins, use that to this day. So sound, and it's, first of all, in the word sound, it means to hear something, and also it represents foundation. And also in the word sound, you have the word nous, right? And nous deals with intelligence. So if you get rid of that and you look it up, it's a Greek word, and Afro uses the word nous within the nature books all the time. So then you have right, and that's dealing with correct, right? And it's also dealing with the right side of the semant circle, which way we're going. And then reason is self-explanatory, and it's based upon not just the reasonable capabilities that Nupu has, but whatever the individual has. So if you read the books, you hear it tells you, to use sound right reason to the best of your knowledge and ability. So everybody got different reasonable abilities within that, and even sound right reason has stages, which is like the first stage that is in for the last 50-something years or so.
All right. So now, also, I have a question down here. It says, however, in the case of infinite absolute nature, internal space, internal matter, and internal time, there was never or never ever any beginning. Why do he say that?
Because space and matter and time makes up the one supreme being. Because there's nothing you can think of that can be outside of space. Everything takes up space. If it's matter, time is eternal because it changes matter from whether it's in creative order or creative chaos. And that means the one supreme being always exists. That's basically what he's saying. And nobody can ever produce or ever was ever to produce a state when it was. If somebody say, okay, God existed before everything, and you have to ask, okay, so where did God exist? And if God can fit within heaven, or whether it's the religious form of heaven, or outside the planet Earth, or out there in the vacuum of space, that's still within something. Just off of that alone. And scientists have sent all types of things out there in space and haven't seen nothing past that. So space is eternal. The scientists know it always exists. Matter in the different degrees is what they're having the confusion about, because you have matter, you have antimatter, then you have what matter's made up, and it goes into quarks, and then what makes some quarks, you got atoms, and all this stuff, protons, electrons, all these things that make up, that goes back into an Afro called brain news, which is energies that are physical, but they can't be detected by any type of technology or human beings, or nothing. You can't detect it, and that is what makes up the physical world as we know it. No matter what mankind comes up with, or extraterrestrials, they'll never be able to detect brain news. And because nature moves in opposites, right? The same way you got good, bad, night, day, up, down, you have that which cannot be seen, and then you have that which can be seen. And so that's what brain news fit at between always exist. And also that he's telling you that as well, because religion teaches that you can make something from nothing, and that's impossible. You can only make something from something else, and nothing is basically whatever you had. It's nothing. That's like saying I was in a marriage and the marriage no longer exists. Even though there's memories of the marriage, you went through the marriage, be like, are y'all together? No, we're not together. There's nothing there. Even though you and the person still alive, you haven't died or disintegrated, but nothing just means that what was together is no longer there, but it still exists in some form or fashion.
Okay. Now, the symbol that you guys use, let's talk about the symbols. I noticed that you have the same symbol on your shirt as is bringing in the book. What that symbol represent?
What the symbol here is, what the top half, well, number one, it represent the big circle, right? Which is, these are different levels of brand new gods that keep the universe in order. We call it a smash circle. When you look up, let's say, universe, it just means to turn and spiral, right? And the same thing with the big circle that the N and the Z is in. It's constantly moving, and anything is nothing else you can find moving outside of the universe. When you go all the way out to the outskirts, they can tell that the universe is moving, right? Even when you look on, say, galaxies and all that, you always see them things spinning. There's always something spinning. The brain loop are the forces that are turning all of these things in one form or another. But Afro told us that everything turning, even though the planet's rotating this way and that way, everything is still going counterclockwise. No matter what you may see, it's something that you can't see that's moving all of these infinite universes at one time. And it represents the 720. That's the whole circle. Then you have the Nuke symbol represent when existence is in another type of form, right? When you talk about nine ether, right, which is something that the Wapians and yogis talk about all the time. You used to say nine ether is a combination of all existing gases. And then in the Holy Tablets, you would name 6 gases. And first of all, when I used to read that, the numbers didn't add up, because how can 6 be 9? If it's 9, if you're talking about 9 ether, and then you say, do you name 6 elements? I'm thinking, well, ain't you missing 3? But it in the gases you named with all gases that can be found now. And so that was a problem too, because in the books it teaches that 9 ether died and became 6 ether. So that means if 9 ether died, whatever the chemicals or the atoms or the gases that existed then can't be existed now. And he named gases that can be found on the periodic chart today by Caucasians. But what we found out by studying more and more, when you say the combination of all existing gases, that means the 99 elements that exist all had to be combined to make what 9 ether was. That's what it means. When they say existing gases, that means all existing gases, not the man-made gases. The 99 was once compacted into one. And that means that the sun was making hydrogen and helium, and then breaking some of those gases down for the planets at that time. So it wasn't all of these gases we see now, which are heavy elements, and they came by way of what they call it, radioactive decay. So once the sun hits a certain point in existence, which is everything does in life, it starts to decay. With the radioactive energy of the sun, when they decay, those elements separate, and then they decay, become hard, become heavier, and then make other ones. That's how radioactive decay works. And once 9 ether died, it became 6 ether, what the Caucasian calls evolutionary gamma rays. That's what gamma rays are. That's 6 ether, which is green. That's why if you look at another symbol we got, the top will be red. That represent infrared, when the suns are using that energy. But in the bottom half of the circle, there's another symbol. It's green, and gamma rays is the strongest energy from the sun, the most powerful. And those sunbursts you see, those sunspots that they have, those solar flares, that's the gamma rays. And scientists say that just one little burst of that can destroy the whole solar system. That's how powerful those little gamma bursts are. So that means that the sun is being suppressed and coming off of it now is not the true heat of the sun, which is gamma rays, and they're not going to tell you that. So Afro Unu being born with 9 mind when he was born, but they didn't tell him that they were there until he turned 36. Okay, so it's a lot of information. He's one of the best intelligent scientists that the black race has ever produced that people don't even know about.
Okay. Now y'all got some more books. Now let's get into the book about the 9 balls, since we on the topic of 9. So I have the information here. I'm gonna go ahead and.
Which one you going to?
I'm going to the first one. 9 ball right here.
The 9 ball count liberation. Okay, give me one.
Yeah. You can see that. If you can see my screen.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And so it says liberate information published by those who care. All right, and it says written by Wu Nupu.
Right.
Asu Nupu. Naba Nupu. Who was that? That was his name before.
These are the 3 writers that wrote the nature books. It's the stuff that we found out later through the investigation. So Asa Nupu would be Afro Unu or Ripu Nupu. Wu Nupu, I'm sorry, would be Afro Unu, aka Amanubi Rakapata, aka Ripu, aka Nubi Ripu. Asa Nupu would be Gipu Sipu. Gipu Nupu, and then Naba Nupu would be Sipu Nupu. The 3 writers you see on the nature book, when they had the 3 representatives in the beginning, these are the same writers, and this is stuff that we found out when I talked to Afro Unu's wife, and Sipu, who passed now, his nephew. So they gave us these information to explain to us that these are the names they was going by at that time.
Okay, gotcha. And this was written in 1971.
Yes.
So now around that time when York had before they became the Nuwapi, it was still Ansars, right? Around that time period.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so I'm under the introduction to 9 reason, 9 knowledge, 9 liberation, 9 ether.
Right.
All right, so and then right here, of course, it's broke down to introduction to 6, purpose of religion, alien education, how to economize, and E is 6 ether. So let's just go down here to I think you kind of explained it, but let's just go down here just to get a recap. So the purpose of the booklet is known as 9 ball is liberation information for woolly-haired people called the Ethiopian race. We, the scientists of the Ethiopian race, know that whatever Ethiopians do for successful liberation must be done intelligently, meaning the steps we take must be reasonable and practical. But then it goes on to say all people with genuinely woolly hair by nature are in the Ethiopian race, and in the Ethiopian race everywhere is the being we are most concerned about, not only because we are part of the Ethiopian race, but also because we find our race in the lowest position of all the races, and this is because our race have the least correct information, which is another way of saying the least correct knowledge. All right, so it says we Ethiopian scientists know that a person or race physical position among other indicate his or its mental position among others. Therefore, since our race holds the lowest position of the races on the orbit Earth, this means that our mental position is lowest, and until our mental position rises, we as a race cannot raise our physical status. The elevator of our mental status is 9 knowledge, and the 9 knowledge needed at this time is liberation information for Ethiopians are now in
captivity.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, captivity. Thank you. Couldn't get it out. Okay. Yeah, the Ethiopian race are now in captivity mentally and physically to alien forces and adverse forces. All right, so let's start right there. Now let's build on this. Let's talk about the 9 knowledge and the alien forces and the adverse forces.
Right.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's it, or you wanted me to go answer that?
Yeah. Let's go into the 9 knowledge.
Right. 9 knowledge is still saying the same thing. Like if you look at the top of the book, right?
Oh, sorry about that. Hold on.
Right. If you look at the very top of the book over the 9 ball, that right there is the same symbol that I'm wearing on my shirt. That's the end. And the just represent the top of it. If you look into the nature book, and once we was able to definitely prove that he was a plagiarizer, it wasn't hard to kind of like pull these things apart and make it make sense. Because it's important that I try to show you, because we went through this mad times, and again, when you're studying as scientists, you have to use everything that you can to get to the truth. You may be studying one form of science, but then you have to go to another branch that somebody else is an expert in to use whatever they got, and that's how it goes. A lot of them just are stuck because as a religionist, it requires you to believe a lot of things, or they'll be like, oh, because York said it and Afro didn't speak in the public, that's why they went with that. York wrote those books. We all did. Okay, there you go. You pulling it up here, page 150.
Okay, 150.
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on.
There you go.
Well, right here?
Go.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. See, now if you look at the 9-ball cover at the top, right, you can see what he calls, the second one he calls Form A. That's it's plain. It just has the circle with the T under it. Then you go over to the next one. You call that the Ethiopian Egyptian hump. But you see the 9, you see the letter N in it with the circle. So,
okay.
So that's all you got to do is compare. These are just used in figures to compare. But when you start getting into the books, and this is before we got the obituary, it was just, this are the things that people contend with. And then the Nuwapians further went and made their own unk with the double unk. If you ever seen it, called it the unk tweed, where they have the unk with the 2 arms underneath it. And you ask him, he says, nowhere in ancient Kemet, that's nowhere in Africa. It don't exist. So York not only was plagiarizing, they was making up stuff that they know that everybody who don't even live in Egypt or study can pull up, type in Egyptian and you'll never see what they got. That's a fact. And that's the problem as well. So that's just I wanted to show you. We can jump back to what you was reading. 9 knowledge is just another term for Nupu, because Nupu means 9 mind, or 9 power. So when you say 9 knowledge, it just means that this is the science of Nupu. That's what Noon is. Originally, Noon is the science of Nupu, or the science of 9. Or when they say 9 knowledge, they wasn't using Nupu as in there, but they put it as a surname. So when you look on the cover, you see Wu Nupu. Everybody that's following Noon has Nupu at the end of their name. So when you see like my name Nupu, that's my surname, because Nupu takes us back to the primary creator of the universe. And that's why you see NUPU at that point in time. When you break down the gematria of the names that come out the 9, I got videos on that. He'll tell you that Nupu adds up to 9. I think it's in that book you got. Hold on, let me see. Give me 1 second. Is it in this book? Is it in the book? Let me see. It talks about odd and even. Hold on. But that's something you need to look at too. That will explain it. Yeah, go to page 115. This gonna explain book 1 of the nature book.
Okay.
Yeah, just leave that right there. We're gonna jump back to that.
Okay, page 115. Okay.
Page 115 in the same book. He was right there, 145, number 145, but it's the number 146 paragraph at the bottom.
Okay, so 145.
You go to the next paragraph.
Okay.
All right. This is it. Now he's gonna break down. This is called. The Caucasian call it the gematria. It's just basically numbers and letters can be interchangeable. And the way this works, are you familiar with the gematria?
No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, the gematria is basically you take alphabets. Let's say A to Z. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, like that, all the way to Z is 26. And you can take letters that come out in English, and you get the numbers based upon the position of the letter, and it'll tell you that. So here it says, listen to reason. The name of the first personality is Nupu, pronounced Nupu, and it's no coincidence that the numbers of Nupu is number 9 this way. In the American English language, N is the 14th letter of the English alphabet, O is the 15th, P is the 16th, N is the 14th, O is the 15th, O is the 15th, P is the 16th, plus O is the 15th, plus O is the 15th, equals Nupu equals 90. So that's all he did. So you go and spell Nupu without the H, because the H is silent, he gonna go into that. So N in the position of the alphabet is, what does it say, 14, then you have the O's is 15, the P is 16, the O's is 15, again you add them up, you get 90. Alright, 9 plus 0 equals 9, which is the single digit number of the name Nupu. And take note that the perfection of the heavenly personality takes place at point 9 north, the tip top of the order circle. See figures 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in part 2 of this book. The H at the end of the word Nupu is added because the name Nupu must be spelled in odd letters, plus the fact that the H stands for the 9 half of the smack circle of order, which is the heavenly half. The name Nupu must be spelled in odd numbers of letters like 3, 5, 7, or 9, because the digit 9 is odd like the one supreme being is 1 and odd. And the letter H at the end of the name Nupu is silent and should always be capitalized because it is symbolic. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. So when you talk about 9 knowledge, that's everything the books are talking about, as far as in the nature books and in certain portions of the Bible interpretation and the 9 counts. There's certain things in there when it's not talking about religion and certain things, it would not be considered 9 knowledge being coming from noon science. But noon science or Nawapu, which is interchangeable, is speaking about this is what Nupu is doing. When you read the Bible interpretation, it's telling you that this is Nupu's interpretation of the Bible and what it was meant to do in the last 6,000 years. It doesn't mean that it's a guesstimation. It's telling you that Nupu is telling you it's interpreting the book as what it was, who was behind it, and then the changes that it went through because of the cycle and season that we went through. When you get to Zupu comes out to 3, but then it goes into all this stuff about 6 ether, and it's like I said, it's mad things you have to learn to be able to understand that. But if you take NUPU and throw them in the same gematria, it's gonna come out to 9, and it's got the same sound, just the way they spelled it, but it's the same sound, and it still comes out to the same numeric number. So 9 knowledge just means that Nupu, which are mental energies now, because they're not physical, right? Like physical beings, how they were in our ancestors millions of years ago, meaning that those forces are using Afro Unu to write this 9 knowledge. That's all it means. That's simply put, if I can be so bold.
Okay, all right. So now, what about the part that in the 9 book it talks about the adverse forces and the hold on, let me go back. Yeah, talk about the alien forces and the adverse forces.
Right. If you read further down, let me see. Give me a second. Okay, I'll see what happens. Give me 1 second. Yeah, 9 ball. Because the way the 9 counts are written, the first set is what's in the book, and then the second thing is what's coming next. So the first thing you're looking at, introduction to 9 reason, 9 knowledge, 9 liberation, 9 ether. That's in the book we're looking at. Now, when you start talking about alien education and stuff like that, like you see the next volume, it'll tell you that. But we in what 9 knowledge, right? Which is C. What page you on? Number 4, okay. All right. When you're talking about adverse forces, without me actually going in it as far as word for word, The adverse force would be the first thing. The first thing is the spirits that human beings got, African, that Ethiopian black people got. I'm about to jump over to the Bible interpretation, right? Because you have to start there first, because that was the first one. So
Okay.
I don't know if you want to do that.
Okay, the Bible interpretation, book 1, booklet 1.
Right. Go to that. Right. Because this is how we have to establish that. Because we have to go in chronological order so people can understand. Our biggest problem with kinky head people in America is that they don't understand this right here. Now this is why we can't get anywhere. All right, now this is what he wrote. Right, there's a spell.
Okay. This book came out in 1967.
Right. This is
by name.
Amanumi Rakata.
Okay, Amanumi Rakata. Okay.
Right, and this is Afro-Unu under this name that he used from 67 to 71. When he released the first Are You Searching for Knowledge? If you've seen the obituary, he released that in 1973. That's when he stopped using the Wapu and started using the word Nunu. Alright? So before we got the obituary and knew all this extra stuff, we assumed it was York because York was active back then, but York did not write these books. These books tell you not to start religion. It tells you not to mess with religion. It tells you that religion is a spell. Everything York did has been religious based, and he wore religious hats, and he was calling himself by religious names, pastors, preachers. All that's anti what this book is saying. Now watch this. Listen what it says. Number 1. It said okay, let me know when you're ready.
Alright, so what page is number 1? Oh, right here.
Right there. We finna go through the first 4 verses, and then it's gonna the first 4 numbers, and it's gonna explain perfectly what adverse forces is, but we're gonna start with the primary adverse force. So watch this. He said there's a spell upon the Ethiopian the world over, right? The Willowhead people, and it is a spell of spiritual ignorance. First thing people need to understand is, in the word spiritual, you have the word what? Spirit. That means we're ignorant of what spirits are. People think being spiritual is being part of a group or reading a book and reciting information from the past is spiritual. Not at all. That's talking about spirit. And then you have the word ritual in the word spiritual. So that means the spirit is doing a ritual upon the person. Now what people don't understand is in Noon it teaches us that spirits are programmers and controllers and are the angels or the one supreme being. Now let me make that clear. The sun, the planets, and all of their satellites called moons have brain cores in the center of them. And their thoughts or reasonability are what create these spirit forces, which are the arms and legs of each orb, because the planets and the satellites and the sun are too big to do it themselves, are the ones that reach down and are created to control human beings like puppets. To an extent, you still have will and choice to an extent, but those spirits are there at the moment of inception or shortly after the child is born. These are regular spirits. When you talk about incarnation, those spirits these are spirit beings, whether it's male or female gods, that incarnated to human beings at the age of 30 and after. Those are some special ones that come in, whether it's Genghis Khan or Hitler or somebody like that comes in and they do a lot of things. And some people we probably never even heard of, but a lot of we have heard of would be people who were spirit beings into Confucius, Buddha, you understand, Krishna, all these different people that's running around the planet who we do know who did a lot of great things. These people were incarnated with spirit forces that were doing things down the line that directed human history. That's what that is. So now we're talking about regular human beings at this point. We're not talking about incarnations, all right, because those are different. It says, the spell of spiritual ignorance and racial indifference cast upon the Ethiopian by Leviathan. Leviathan is another word for 6 ether. Okay, that is that it talks about what Leviathan is too. York never could explain what Leviathan was without using religion. He didn't understand that Leviathan was 6 ether and how 6 ether again, if York wrote these books, right? The book tells you that the Bible hurts black people, right? It puts you under a spell. Dr. York came out as a preacher, right? In the later years, he was calling himself Reverend Dr. Malachi Z. York. He was calling himself Rabboni Yahshua, right? When he was doing the Islamic Hebrews, right around the Ansars. All these terms are interchangeable because Islam, Judaism, and Christianity all are interchangeable. And he even taught himself that the Allah of the Muslims and El Elo of the Christians is the same. You see what I'm saying? And or Ilah, as he say, depending on the dialect of the Jews. So it's the same gods. So he came teaching religion, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah, right? All that falls under religion. When you get into these books, these Bible interpretations, it explains to you how Leviathan, which is the religious word, because Leviathan is found in the Bible a couple of times in the book of Job. It's a water force, it's a sun force, it's an earth force, it's a lunar force, and these forces magnify and manifest themselves on the planet in different ways. It ain't just Ethiopian people that are affected by it, but we're affected by Leviathan the worst as a footstool for other races. Alright, so it says, from the Caucasian in this Bible, this is why no one has been able to really unite the Ethiopian in any considerable numbers, and is also why, in capital letters, the people of African descent have not been able to make real progress toward freedom and equality. With the help of the Caucasian, Leviathan, the god of the Caucasians, hypnotized the Ethiopians with its magic powers and sealed the hypnosis with spiritual ignorance and racial indifference. So now we're talking about magic. So that means when you understand the information we study, when the Caucasian invaded Kemet, right? And we're talking about the Greeks now because the Jews are already there prior to them. So we're talking about the Greeks under Alexander. Once they got their chance to go up into Kemet and took over and renamed it Alexandria, they went into the mystery schools, okay? And in the mystery schools, they learned how to contact those gods and incarnate those gods by way of doing all these rituals. So when you hear about the music industry and how they doing all these rituals, you gotta do blood sacrifices, all that is a offspring of what they were doing in there. And those gods require heavy sacrifice, especially Osiris, known as Usir, and they don't understand none of that. That's why when I sent you my link to the BitChute page I got videos that go all into that I done that YouTube was deleted my channel for because of all the stuff I had on there. I break down the United Nations and how they have Osiris rituals in the United Nations and the bloodletting and all the stuff they doing. This stuff that our people don't know about. You got all of the Kemet society running around here, all these hotel dudes talking about they Osiris this, Osiris that, and Isis this. They have no idea that these are the same gods. They changed their name from ancient times that other races are following, and they are causing them to do all these things in the music industry in Hollywood, and all these 300,000, 400,000 children getting kidnapped, sex trafficked. Most of them are going to these gods to be killed, to perform magic and miracles for them. This is how all these other races stay in power. This is why nobody in Noon Science was told not to deal with these gods at all, because they abandoned us because it was time for them to do so. When they was rocking with us, we was on top doing our thing, but things change in the circular order through evolution. Evolution means to get worse, not to get better. So those gods change different names. When you do the research, you'll find out that Osiris is Usir, and Isis is Aset, and all these different other gods that people think are different. It's the same gods. They have different names because the times change, the people change, the language change, all of that. And these forces do the same thing because in the bottom half of existence, you're talking about deception. And this is why you see deception there. That's why you look at Polite. People didn't think Polite was what he was. People looked at York and think York was what he was. People look at this leader or that person and think that they was cool, and then you find out they was all filthy, because deception is the order of the day. That's why everybody you see in front of you is something that they've done outside of just being a flawed human being. There's a system at play that allows that type of energy to perpetuate itself. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, then. So, all right. So, I'm gonna have to kind of like speed it up a little bit. So now, let's talk about your next book that you have, which is the Moon Set and Sunrise in the Nature of Nature. What is that book about?
Well, the title itself is telling you that the moon cycle ended, right? That's why he called it Moon Set and Sunrise. In 1962, February 5th, the moon cycle, which is 6,000 years, that the Caucasian had to rule, was ending. And then the sunrise also meant that the sun cycle was beginning, meaning that this is dealing with the rise of woolly-haired people and all darker-skinned people in general. And what he does is break down, it's an introduction, which is right here on the foreword, right? What is the name of the ethnic race of black people? Stuff that you should know when you run into this book. What is our true spiritual science, our true culture, our racial potential in the future? Is racism a fact of life? What is life? What is death? What and where is the creator of the universes? What is the meaning of the resurrection according to the universe and nature science? What can a person learn more about these writings, the Ethiopian race symbol of originality, stuff like that? It gives you basic information of people like us who suffer mental death. So you have to know who you are. It tells about our hair. Our hair is important because when you live in America, people didn't understand why we was taught to hate our hair so much, why we was always conking it and dying at it, permanent it, and doing all these things, not knowing that our hair has connection to the sun. And I wrote two books called Our Hair on the website that I go into the scientific part of that explains why our hair is so important and why they made us hate our hair. But Moon Set and Sunrise is basically telling you the moon cycle is over, the cycle of religion, the cycle of Leviathan is over, and that now the sun cycle is here, and that those forces are going to be removed and replaced, and eventually black people, real black people with kinky hair will rise. Everything we've seen, that's not our liberation. All of the money you've been seeing, the billionaires that we've been seeing, that's not us coming up in politics. That was the fake right there. That's not us. That's not me. That's not you. That's not the regular person. Because those people are locked in. You understand, by being Masons and all this stuff. They locked in. Their money is always recycled that way, not toward black liberation.
Okay. All right. Now you have this is the last book I'm going to show. So this book is dealing with Listen to Reason, the Constitution of African Noon Kingdom. So let's talk about that book.
What book is that? Which one you in?
I'm going to show you. I'm going to pull that book up. All right, this book right here.
Okay.
So the Constitution of African Noon Kingdom. Listen to Reason.
Okay, number one, I don't know. Where do you get that book from?
It came from, which website is this? It's the sciencenoon.com website.
Okay, that's off of the Newsome site. Number one, that symbol shouldn't be at the top, even though that's our symbol and it's in color, and it shouldn't be. That right there is definitely incorrect. That's wrong.
Okay.
Do that. All right. I don't know why you calling it. The book already got its name. I think that's book 2. No, go ahead. What book is that? So I can give. I just wanted to.
The Constitution of the African Noon Kingdom.
Right. That's not correct. Keep reading it so we can see. It said the commandment laws of nature by reason. Okay, keep going. Okay, so what this is, he took the laws and compiled them. So that's not a book. He altered that in a sense. It don't look like he altered like the words, but he put the laws together. So that's not the right thing to use because it's starting off at 200 and something. So he way down the line. I'm glad you brought that out. So this is what we mean. That's another problem too that I've been fighting. Not just Sabian the Wabin, but certain so-called Nunaboos who've been doing stuff like this. And
so what book did it come from? Or
it's really the nature book too. That's really what it. That he putting the Constitution on the top like that. That's not correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay, got you.
That's the nature book too. But what in there? What particular verse you wanna discuss in there?
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to get into it because I thought it was an actual book. I didn't know that.
It's a book. It is. It looked like he just took how many pages in there? It don't look that long.
That's a good question. It says up to 110 pages.
Yeah, he probably just took a section of the book and just dealing with the laws and stuff. It don't look like he altered the book itself. It just looked like he just started from 200 something and then went down, and it deals with when a true culture society is set up. That's after the cataclysm. We'll be in Africa. We'll be separated from all this crap that's going on. But that's interesting how nature brought that to our attention, at least on the line.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. Alright, so alright.
Since she brought that to our attention a while ago, there's so much going on why we be forgetting. But yeah, that right there is what he's calling it. But really that's just the laws and rules that some of the stuff we'll be dealing with in a future time. When you set up a society, you gotta have laws and things like that. And that's all that is. That's what he's calling the Constitution. So that's his thing.
Okay, got you. Now, so the website is noon.wisite.com. Is that the? Let me pull this website up.
Yeah,
let me pull it up just so you know what I'm talking about.
Alright, so I can see what's going on.
Okay. Alright, so this is where I got the books from this website.
Oh, okay. Alright, that's that shouldn't even be on a news website with the Constitution. I don't know how that
No, not this. No, okay. The last book is what I got from the website I had told you. But
okay, yeah, that's news.
All the other books, the other books there I was reading, like the nature.
Oh, okay.
And the 9 ball, I got it from this website right here.
Oh, yeah, those are fine. This one is fine, yeah. But the other one, if it doesn't look like the books on this site or Find Our News as is with the symbols, there's no color in those books, just illustrations. You have to be very weary of it.
Right.
Yeah, this is Noon the Nature Science. Yeah, I think this is Noosa's site, I think. And this is called Noon.
Yeah, it's called Noon, the Nature of Science. Got liberation information. Let's see.
Check this out.
Got this.
Is this Noosa's site or somebody else? Okay, there's Noosa. Okay, cool. Yeah, so so they go to symbol again. Yeah, that's him. He's fancying himself as some type of priest. And again, what happens is the issues that we end up with is that we supposed to be able to check each other, because what happens is Zupu or Sixth Mind will seep into situations and cause people to corrupt things slowly but surely, and they don't really be aware of it. And so when they do things like this, we have a history of telling them, yo, that's not correct. And what they do is they'll get mad. So a lot of us are falling out because they do things like that. And if you was to question him and ask him, where in the nature books told you to put that symbol at the top and then put it in there as a constitution without adding, this is something that I compiled and put together, because if not, you thought that was a book. You see, that's what I mean. That's deception without intent to deceive per se, but it still is deceiving, because that makes no sense to do that. That you should, if you're gonna write, which we all do, we write books all the time. We cite our sources and we let it be known that this is what we created based upon this. So that right there is just straight foolishness. And then, oh my goodness.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you. That's an embarrassment. But go ahead.
Okay, now, I have one last question. I forgot to ask you this question. I know in one of your books you guys talk about Nuwapu? Or what you guys explain what Nuwapu is?
Which book?
I cannot remember. I don't know if it was in the 9 book. I want to say it was the 9 book. I seen somewhere at the bottom of the page. Let me see. Maybe I could be wrong. No. I think it was the Bible interpretation.
Yeah, Nuwapu was in booklet. Yeah. They in booklet too, right? Afro explains what is Nuwapu.
Let me pull it up real fast.
Yeah, it's in BIAE at the bottom.
Pull it up real fast. Okay.
And it explains it even better in book 2. But it give you numbers, letter S, page 32.
Yeah, page 32. Yeah, so yeah, okay, right down here, yeah, what it says, what is Nuwapu?
Yes.
Alright, so Nuwapu is pronounced Nuwapu. The meaning of the word Nuwapu is the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Nuwapu is all knowledge, all wisdom, all understanding, finite and infinite. Nuwapu is the science of science and the science in science. Nuwapu is the spiritual science that exists before the great flood of Noah, 17,250,000 years ago, and is therefore the science of the original creative force and the original spiritual science of the African pygmies and Ethiopians in general. Nuwapu is the science in which and with which the universe was grown. Nuwapu existed for a long time after the flood, but finally gave way to pantheism in accordance with the time cycle laws of nature. Just as in accord with the time cycle of nature, pantheism eventually gave way to religion as well. As we know it today. Now it is time for Nuwapu again. Do you think that's where the Nuwapians got their name from Nuwapu?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. York took those books and he made a group. But if you look at the definition, it tells that Nuwapu is everything except a human being. It's the science of black people. So you cannot become knowledge. You can disseminate knowledge, you can teach knowledge, but you cannot become knowledge yourself. Then not only did York take the word, see, York hijacked Amanubi Rakapata's name in 1990, and then he started writing what's called the Right Knowledge series later on in the 90s, after he got away from Islam, because he was ran out of Islam when Bilal Phillips put that book out, Ansar Cult in America, and that destroyed everything. So he ended up running away from that, took that name and started writing books based off of this, and then he eventually took the word, because you won't find the word Nuwapians in here.
Right.
It tells you it's not a person, it's a science. So them calling themselves, that's basically them saying I'm a science. It's no such thing as that. And then York changed the P to a B, and then he just kept corrupting it. Then it went from that to Wu Nuwa, Wu Nuwubu, Wu Sabat, and then eventually he turned them into Sabians, which is an extinct group of black Arabs that lived in Saudi. That was on when I was watching your video when you was talking to Chuck about the language Nuwapic. That's a little bit of ancient Yemen, Arabic, and Sanskrit, because York only knows Arabic. That's it. He always been a religionist, and that's why he used the term Sabian. And he took the word Sabian and tried to use the sound of Sabians or Sabiism in the nature books, which is also a phase of Noon. It's a science as well. And that's all York did. He followed other people's stuff and assumed their identity. Same way Polite did the same thing. And this is spirit beings though. This is why I was telling you earlier about what spirits do. They already there. Spirits know the future, and they the ones who program people and move them around. York did not come born with knowledge. None of us did. So he was being led by his spirit to take what Afro Uno had done in the 60s and 70s, then revamp it and make it sound like it's new, to be in the way of Noon. Because what Afro Uno started teaching and writing in 73 was 9 knowledge in the books in the 90s that you got in Nature Book 3 that was he finished in 2007, but he died before we could publish it. And his wife finished the book in late 2012 and brought it to Jersey and New York in 2013, of which we got the books. So those are what 9 knowledge is in entirety. If you read the BIAE and the 9 more counts, get your books together, you will see they flow in continual and consistency, and you can tell who wrote those books. That's nine knowledge. It's all of this. But go ahead.
All right then. So also it says, well, I think you kind of touched on it, but just to go back, it says the standard knowledge on the Wapu is right knowledge. Right knowledge is that knowledge which agrees with nature and its laws and its way of life and death. Right knowledge is facts without fallacy. Facts are identified by proof, logic, reason, because facts are always logical and they reason out. When all necessary and major questions about the Bible have been asked by, answered for, and known to, and understood by the so-called Negro, he and she will then be qualified for his or her own spiritual science, which is the Wapu. The Wapu is the spiritual heritage of Ethiopians in general, and it helps all oppressed peoples.
Right. So the book is telling you the information helps all people, not your. Nobody else was supposed to do that. The information, if you read the beginning of the book of the 9 counts and all that, what it say? It says liberation information. The information is supposed to liberate you. Your lie and claim that he had to take people through religion because they wasn't ready yet, which is a direct contradiction, because the information tells you that 9 knowledge came after the moon cycle was over. So that means after February 5th, on February 5th, 1962, moving forward, this information was brought forth by the universe itself, all over the place. So York saying that went against what this says, and this book tells you, it says it. A human being is not an it. It says Nawapu is the spiritual heritage of Ethiopians in general, and it helps all oppressed peoples. It didn't say a leader. Even though Afro-Uno was raised up mentally to put this information out, he was never told to stand in front of the people because of the way the religion people would only have either idolized him or tried to have him killed because of his intellect. So the book tells you the knowledge, which is Nupu is the mentality behind the writings. Nupu is the mental resurrector. So this kills his argument, and anybody who keeps thinking that York or anybody like them is going to liberate them, it can't. The information has to do that. Why? Because inside the human being is a spirit that only this knowledge and taking turpentine and sulfur and other things will neutralize and attack that negative psyche in the person to help that spirit loosen its grip off of your mind to be able to take this information. So when it's saying these books answer the who, what, when, why, and where. That's why but right now people are still stuck. If you look at Sarnetta TV as an example, all of these Hebrew battles and back and forth, because the spirits is making them keep asking the same thing over and over. That's what I mean by spirit beings working in tandem with Leviathan or Six Ether. If they did research, they can find that out. Number one, Jesus wasn't white. Jesus was mixed. He was part Phoenician and he was part Greek. Part Roman. And he was a regular man. He was incarnated with spirit beings. They used him to help the Caucasian rule for 2,000 years spiritually, and that was it. He died. That's it. It's nothing else. It's no him sitting somewhere in a hiding. No, it's not a black Jesus with dreads. All that is incorrect. That dude was mixed. He was a hybrid. He was what you call a mulatto. And he was only sent to his race of people, the Phoenicians, of which Queen, what her name is, what was her name? Queen, what is his name? He's up at there, another name. Cleopatra was not African. She was black, meaning melanated Phoenician. She was from the Phoenicians who invaded Egypt after the 6th dynasty, but she was not African. And so all of these little things have to be fixed. And then but the spirit is the main reason why people keep holding on to religion. And so only Nupu knowledge can get that off of you. Nobody else, not me, not Afro-Uno, not Gibu, not Sibu, not Polite, not Young Pharaoh, not Sarnetta, not Brother Reggie, none of these people, not Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Elijah, none of them people. You know why? Because it never happened, it never worked, right? Ain't we still doing the same thing? That means it don't work. The knowledge they kicking only empowers the spirit and allows you to keep looking for a savior. That's why people like Pharaoh and Russell can come up up there. Dr. Umar Johnson, all of them come up there and say what they say. But if you study what they're saying, it's fake. Dr. Umar Johnson, I'm going to say that to get out of the way, can't represent Pan-Africanism because Garvey said, go back to Africa. Why are you building stuff over here? It's no such thing as that. Now, following Frederick Douglass wanted to be here because that's what he was about. And he had a white woman before he died. And to have a school called Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey, them two was ideologically opposed. That's an oxymoron. Why would you do that? That's like having a school named after two enemies. You know, that's like I'm having a school I'm gonna name a school Tupac and Biggie. Why? They hated each other. It makes no sense. But this is the stuff that we're dealing with. Spirit beings creating all of this confusion and winding these people up. And that's why I'm having a hard time, all of us fighting with the real nine knowledge. And this is why they keep giving y'all leaders, whether it's the political or religious or whatever, these people in our life or in our government are spiritually programmed to throw that up. But yeah, I see somebody said Cleopatra she was mixed. Her bloodline came from that. That's right, the Ptolemy. I know exactly what they're talking about. You can still be dark skinned and have your race come from somebody else because the Greeks was over there. They came in when the Phoenicians was already in Kemet as invaders, and Alexander them came in and mixed their bloodlines. So yeah, it's not a contradiction. But yeah, look up her son. What was Issa Panthera's other name? What's his name? Caesarion. Look up Caesarion. I think the fourth. I think it's Caesarion. Cleopatra got a son named Caesarion. That's your Jesus Christ of the Bible. That guy right there. That man got crucified, killed because he was going against the Roman Empire. That was it. And that's why his mother and them was trying to fight them. And that's why she was sleeping with all those Romans trying to keep her empire. But it was over for that. It was time for the Caucasian to now take over everything. And he was their last shot. And he didn't make it. The spirit set him up to be crucified. Yeah, see? Caesarion. There you go. Appreciate it. Thank you, bro. Thank you. So that's all I'm saying. The Bible interpretation explained is the mystery of Jesus been over since 67, 68. And Nupu answered these questions. You got people still running around 50-something years later talking about, is Jesus black? He's not African. He was part Phoenician, Ptolemy, right? With the Grecian bloodline, right? And Roman. The Caucasian, he's more Caucasian through his father Marcus Antonius. That's it. Now we can move on. That thing with G is over. It's spirits doing that to human beings and making them believe that. That's all it is.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you being on here. Thank you for taking the time and having this conversation, having this dialogue discussion. I hope everybody learned a lot from here. I have learned a lot. So now that we actually got to know what known science is, right, and know about Afro Uno, this shouldn't be no surprise. A lot of people, if people want to study more, they can go on the website that I showed up, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So people can go on the website. People can go on there and they can study more information about it. And there's plenty of books that can be downloaded. Again, I got one of the books, which is the Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 1. All right. So, yeah.
How you get that? That's like the
a friend of mine actually gave this book to me. Mm-hmm. So they had got it a long time. They got it from a bookstore somewhere out here where I'm at. So I think so. Was it somewhere out here or somewhere else? Or I think it was somewhere in New York. I'm not sure exactly where they got, what bookstore they went to. But they had got the book, and so ever since they had the book for a long time, and I was like curious. I wanted to know. So they gave me this book, and ever since then I done had it. I had it for a while.
Like it's in good condition too.
Yeah, it is. It's in good condition. Yeah, I keep up with, try to take care of, I try to take care of all my books. Let's put it like that, because I have a lot of books. So I try to take care of it.
I was trying to find this picture because I wanted people to see it. For those who didn't see it, I don't know where that picture Afro Uno because they put a picture. Then the YBNs got a picture. They had a picture of Afro Uno in their bookstore after years of taking this man information and claiming that he didn't exist. And that's the sad thing about it. You know, Afro Uno did a lot of work for his people, and his job was, as a messenger, his job was to stay out of that because he knew, looking at what we see now, all of the debacles, the fakeness coming out, people getting exposed, all of these things, and this is why we only coming out because we had to make it be known because York was misusing information. He didn't study, he didn't get it honestly, and he was tricking people for decades for that. And so we came out to clear Afro Uno in the writer's name and to give black people a shot at whether y'all want to take the information and do what you want with it, but at least here, take it and take this man's face off. This is why people like Polite was doing the same thing spiritually that York is doing. Polite never met York, but his path is the same. York was an entertainer. Polite was an entertainer. York made up his own language. Polite made up his own language. York had more than one wife. Polite had more than one wife. York was messing with young girls. Polite was messing with young girls. And when this whole thing done with the trial, you're going to put it together, you're going to say, damn, how does that happen? Because spirits can divide and jump from body to body. And York spirit was doing just that. And that's why people like him, same thing with Pharaoh. Pharaoh wouldn't got the little Egyptian thing on his eye. What? Spiritually, he's following Polite. He don't really rock with Polite, but the spirit does. That's why he went and done that. When you look at that and say, why would this man put this on his face? Even though the eye and stuff go back to Kemet, but when you look at the person who was doing it for him, it was Polite. But they didn't like each other. But spiritually, their spirits are unified, and they both are crooks. They both are spiritually doing the people dirty. That's the point I want people to take away from anything else besides going to the website and getting the books. Understand that spirits are what we are ignorant about. And those are the true things that we need to get identified. And that's why we can't come together unless it's death, partying, BS, getting high, marching and stuff for dumbness, especially people that's going out here, black folks getting killed, doing dumb stuff. It's just too much. All that spirit beings. And we have to really use our mind and knowledge, information that tells us this is being introduced by this force. This is being introduced by that force. Once you've been able to identify logically the mentality of what 9 mind is versus 6 mind and lower, then y'all will be able to determine right from wrong. Right now, people need to get the Bible interpretation 1 and 2 and the 9 book counts, then read them with the other books in succession and follow what it says. Then you'll end up in a better position. And those of us will come together at the right time. Right now, we're not mentally ready. We think that knowledge is what Politeness was doing just because they can memorize random information and spit it out. We think that's what black power is. No, that's what a parrot is. He's a parrot. That's what Yorkman was. These spirits give these guys and women magnificent memory to remember stuff, and they flow and you think it's real. But it only works because the spirit and the person that's deceiving and the spirit and the one that's ignorant are working together, not the two people. I don't have to know you, but my spirit can make me listen to some dumb shit that I won't know unless I research and say, oh wow, let me write Brother Polite a check. How you think he was able to scam thousands of dollars out of people in the internet age? Because a lot of stuff that Polite and Umar them saying, you can just go online and type it up and research it and find out that ain't true. But we don't do that. The question is why? It's the spirit in us that makes us do that. And I honestly thank you for having me on here too. I appreciate it. Whenever you need me, let me know.
All right then. Well, thank you. All right then. Well, I hope you have a good one and be safe and be safe during this pandemic. And I hope everybody is safe over there on your end. So
thank you very much.
All right then. All right, you guys. Thank you guys that was tuning in, watching, and entertaining and taking in the information and things of that nature. Also, you guys, I'm glad that you finally got a chance to actually listen to the brother. So now that we know about Noon Science, again, you can check out more information about the Noon Science. Check out more information about Afro Uno. and you can look into his book. And they also got YouTube channels. Just type in, if you can't type in this brother's name, you can type in Afro Uno on YouTube, and you'll find out more information. So, all right. So, okay. So, yeah, he posted up the website. I'm about to give you guys the website. Let's see. All right, the website is fine9news.com. The website is fine9news.com. Weepu, Nupu, YouTube, and Tar Bona Nupu, and Tar Kinoo Nupu. Alright, so but the website is fine9news.com. That's the website, fine9news.com. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and type it up on here so you guys can see it. Type it on here, fine9news.com. Alright, so that's the website. Until then, you guys take it easy on yourself. Once again, thank you guys for watching. And if you like the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Make sure you share the channel, and make sure you also check out the other contents I have on here, because I deal with a lot about Black history. Also deal with a lot about current events, topics, and deal with science and whatnot. And also make sure you check out Team Osiris channel. Make sure you check out my brothers from Descendant of O'Malley channel, Society Griot channel, and brother Hero Jones channel, which is Hero GMR Jones. Check out his channel as well. So again, shout out to everybody. Shout out to all the brothers and sisters out there that's actually putting out knowledge and information, that's out here educating people, that's doing a lot of work. Shout out to you guys. It's a long list of people that I have to give a special shout out to. But until then, knowledge is always essential. Make sure you stay on your knowledge game. Make sure you stay focused. All right? I will talk.